Chairwoman and dear friends and neighbours, I came in here tonight really to debate as your local TD with the government TDs in regard to this particular issue. I am disappointed that they're not here to defend this tax and their general economic policies. So, with your agreement, I really revert more as an active member of the campaign against household and water taxes and give a little bit of an update on what has been going on around the country with regard to this particular issue. There is a huge and growing momentum behind the campaign against the household and water taxes. Right around the country, that is the situation. Now, up to midday today, the middle of the day today, 282,000 households had registered. That's out of 1,800,000 that the government demands must register. That means that 86% have not registered 11 days before the deadline set by the government. And despite all the publicity and the threats, etc., that were going around the place, it's now quite clear that March 31st will arrive with a huge boycott in place of this particular tax. Last week they did get the numbers registering every day up a little bit to around 7,000 per day. But if they were to get the number who have not registered down to just 1 million, which would still be massive, they would need 46,700 a day registering for the next 11 days. It's just impossible. So it's quite clear that there is going to be a huge boycott and non-registration come the end of the line. And as we said in the course of the campaign, out of 1.8 million, if 500,000 people had boycotted, that would be huge. If 750,000 boycotted, it would be massive. If 1 million boycotted, it would be almost incredible. That now is what this government faces in regard to this particular issue. And it's quite clear that they're getting quite desperate in regard to the situation. We see newspapers, right-wing journalists and commentators who are in favour of this new tier of taxation are regularly attacking the Minister for the Environment, Mr. Hope, for making a mess, they say, of the household tax, its launch, and all the rest of it, and criticising him. And then on the other hand, saying, as Mr. Hogan is saying, oh, this is typically the Irish, everybody's leaving it until the last day, and the big majority will register before March the 31st. They are absolutely divorced from the real lives of our people right around this country. Because what is represented here is a resolute opposition to this new tax, because ordinary people around the country understand what it represents going into the future. And I can attest myself, this is my 20th public meeting in the last 9 weeks. From every corner of the country I have travelled to speak, to try and build the campaign. And I can attest from those meetings the depth and the strength of feeling of the decent taxpayers, pensioners, unemployed people of this society. And the attendance at those meetings also reflect that, as this magnificent attendance tonight here in Marchtown does. But one of the earliest meetings I spoke to in January was in Castlebar, 130. I was in Ennis, County Clare, 170. I was in Monaghan, 170. In Cork, 450. In Waterford, 600 to 700. An incredible size of a meeting in that city. And that's just a few. And I think, Chairwoman, that the strength here is for two reasons. That people do understand that the €100 household charge, so-called, is just the thin end of a wedge that will grow very wide very quickly. And they're absolutely right in that. This is putting in place a new separate tier of taxation. Besides PAYE income tax, besides VAT, and besides the other stealth taxes, like on petrol, etc., that they have lashed on over the last 3 years. And their plan is quite clear. It is to grow that tax every year to substantial limits. And the Commission on Taxation, which has been pushing this, made very clear they believe that the amount per year that should be paid on every home within the value that most or all of our people here would live, the value of the average home in our area, that should be €580 per year. And the Economic and Social Research Institute, the government think tank, then says water charges and water tax should be put on top of that. They say that should be €500 a year. So this is the beginning of a new tier of taxation that will quickly be €1,000 and go up to €1,300 or €400. And that's the intention. And that has been driven as well by the Troika, the EU, the IMF and the ECB, the gang that came here in November 2010, not to help the Irish people, but to bleed the Irish people to bail out the European bankers and speculators who had gambled so recklessly in the Irish property market in private deals between private banks for private profit. But that entire burden has been put on the shoulders of the Irish working class, and as we know, for 3.5 years our people and our society has been bled to bail out these bankers and speculators. And going around the country, that is the other reason why people are so determined to resist this particular tax. Because they see it as part of the bailout of the bondholders and the speculators. And they are sick and tired of having things taken out of their pocket, like the universal social charge, VAT increases, etc., none of which there was a choice to do. But on this occasion, it's the first time that we have a choice in this regard, when people can say no, and that is why the uptake of the protest and the boycott of the opposition is so absolutely high, and I am convinced that that will continue. Therefore, there are critical issues here. On the one hand, it's a defence against the new tier of taxation. On the other hand, it's a demand for a change of policy from the disastrous bailout strategy, which is ripping our economy apart. Bleeding society, bleeding the pockets of working class people and pensioners, is wrecking the domestic economy. Hence, nearly 500,000 of our people unemployed. It's an insane strategy, and it has to be changed. And people are seeing through this campaign that they can force change in regard to making the government stand up and see the anger and the opposition among ordinary people in our society. And therefore I believe that this campaign is going to continue to go from strength to strength. By the way, now they want us to come probably in May and vote on another referendum that is also related to this issue don't have time to go into tonight's chairperson vote, for the members and the supporters of the anti-household tax campaign, it is vital that we look at the issues. I have examined it. As a public representative for this area, I will be saying this is an austerity treaty. It is to put more costs on top of our society, on top of our public services, as if our health service, for example, Manchester Hospital, wasn't being stripped away badly enough already, as if our education services weren't under sufficient pressure at the present time, and therefore we must in this area have meetings in regard to that issue. Just let me finish, Chairwoman and friends, by this. There will be relentless pressure in the next 11 days. Expect to see this every day in the media. Expect to hear threats of fines and penalties and all the rest of it. Expect them to say, we can't win this, they'll take it out of our wages or something in the end. Expect all kinds of strategy and tactics to undermine the campaign. Do not believe them, do not be taken in. The role of all our people that are here tonight and every other meetings is to take to the family, to the friends, to the neighbours in the general area that this campaign is a massively strong campaign, it's a campaign of people power, it's a democratic campaign, it's people that are leading this campaign, and people like we are simply representing the interests of the thousands and thousands, I reckon, conservatively, 15 to 20,000 people have attended these public meetings and protests since the second week of January of this year. I have not seen that in many years of campaigning. And I see faces here tonight, by the way, that we campaigned together, if you remember, in 94, 5 and 6, against the water charges when they brought them back to Dublin. We had a 3-year campaign, we had fantastic meetings here in Hartstown and right around the area. People power stood against all the repression and threats, turning off the water, dragging our people to court, you remember it well. We fought them tooth and nail. And in December of 1996, the government of Fine Gael and Labour at that time had thrown its hands in the air and said, we give in and abolish the water tax for the entire country. That was a tremendous achievement for people power, and if we hadn't achieved that, water tax and a lot of other taxes that would have come inevitably with it would be heading to 1,000 and probably over 1,000 euro now. So that was a very, very important point. So we need to maintain, to keep our nerve, to meet all the threats, the lies, etc., and say, if they dare to try and take a few people out of the 750,000 or the million of households, that's not people. 1 million households is nearly 3 million people. It's a majority of the population. That is the democratic wish of people. If they think they will single out a few people and isolate them and make examples of them, they have something else. Because just like we did with the water, we will go to the court in our hundreds and even in our thousands if they attempt that road, especially towards the end of the year. So we are expressing through this campaign the democratic wishes of our people. And lastly, Chairwoman, in regard to that, the national campaign has organised a major national protest rally and assembly in the National Stadium, South Circular Road, Dublin, this Saturday, beginning at 1 o'clock. We must have 2,000 people crowding that National Stadium. So I'm finishing by appealing to everybody here tonight to go to that particular rally. Use the buses that the local campaigners here will have details of before the end of the meeting, or go directly. But let us show a massive display of people power on Saturday, that the media will be forced to relay from one corner of this state to the next, to show everybody that this campaign is strong and is representing them and is not being intimidated. For the people at present, it will be a fantastic event. People will be coming from all the campaigns right around the country. There are buses booked from every county of the campaign. And it will, above all, demonstrate to the government, this arrogant government that doesn't want to change their policy. And finally, it will be a shot across the bow to the bureaucrats from the European Union and the IMF who think that they can bleed our society dry, destroy our health service, damage our health, our education service, deny children with disability their rightful education advantage, to bail out their billionaire bankers and speculators and their crazy financial market system. All those are riding on this campaign, and the success in this campaign would, by the end of March and this rally on Saturday next, a huge demonstration there, will really be a huge warning to all these people who want to make